Minister Ange here. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time out to tune in to this iteration of Cultivated Conversations. I know you could be anywhere doing anything, but you're right here, and I promise you God's going to meet you here. That's first. Second, I wanted to let you know we did have a slight technical difficulty with my audio, but you can hear my guests perfectly clearly. And that's what really matters, because they gave us such good, rich information, family. And so I wanted to give you a heads up that you may notice a little something funky going on with the audio, but you're going to be able to hear everything that you need to hear perfectly clearly. And so again, I want to thank you so much for taking your time out to tune in today. And I hope that you come back tomorrow again at 7 p.m. to view part 2 of this incredibly powerful Cultivated Conversation. Well, I guess it's about time to jump in. Talk to you soon, fam. Welcome to another iteration of Cultivated Conversations. For those of you who are new, you haven't seen us do this before, I'll explain it to you. Cultivated Conversations really is a simple thing. It is exactly what it sounds like. It's a space that we've created to have some real, honest God conversations. And so we have 2 guests with us here today. And we are going to be talking all about the topic, what's so good about Friday? And, you know, we are literally right in Holy Week. We are almost there, and everybody's talking about Good Friday. Good Friday, what do you got going on for Good Friday? Is your church doing anything for Good Friday? What's going on for Good Friday? And so today we're going to talk about what's so good about Friday. With us today, we have 2 guests. I'm excited about them being here. So first we have sister. She's my sister now. She can't.
I claim it, so we good.
Yeah, she can't revoke me. Yeah, that's my sister now. But we have my sister, Sharnay Hearn Davis, with us. And Charnay is a consummate professional. She is a social work and community worker and advocate. She is the founder of the Sisters Lifting As We Climb Network. But today, she is just Charnay.
Amen.
And she's going to keep it real with us, just as Charnay today.
No pressure.
All right, next guest is no stranger to those of you who have been around Macedonia for any amount of seconds. We have Pastor Mike Rue, who is our young adult campus ministry pastor. He is on fire for God. There's just no other way to say
Amen.
It. I know when you guys see him during weekend worship, whether he's here leading worship or on the worship team, whether he's hosting and welcoming you guys on the weekend, you can see clearly the love of God exuding from him. And so I'm so excited to have 2 people who love God fiercely, but they're willing to get real. Y'all ready to get real? Y'all ready to get real?
Once again, no pressure. We ready?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. Well, we're going to get real. All right. So again, today we're talking about what's so good about Friday. And so let me unpack that for you just a little bit. Because as far as culture is concerned, Friday is what we waiting for. We live the whole week to get to Friday.
Right.
Friday is payday.
Yeah.
Friday is the day that some of us ain't got work in the morning, so we can sleep in. We can stay up late if we want to. TGI Friday is a whole thing. They got a whole restaurant called TGI Friday. Okay? And so for most people in today's culture, we live for Fridays. But today we're talking about a different kind of Friday.
Yeah.
Right? So today we are talking about Good Friday, which for believers, Christians, that is the day that we celebrate Jesus Christ going to the cross, hanging on the cross, dying on the cross, and being buried. And so that would beg the question, well, if that's what we celebrate, what's so good about Friday?
Yeah.
But as we discuss that, unpack that, well, I don't want to give it away. I won't give it away. So first things first, let's talk about our Friday experiences. Friday experiences. When that comes to mind, Charnay,
I'll
for
just
you,
start with me.
is
Okay.
there like a clear experience that comes to mind and you're like, yeah, that was a Friday?
Yeah, so for me, when I started to think about and begin to prepare for our conversation today, it made me think around 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I was in a car accident, but this wasn't my first car accident. This was now the fourth car accident consecutively for the last 3 years. So I already been driving around with like anxiety of being on the road. And in order to tell that piece of the story, I got to tell a little bit more of why that Friday was just so impactful. So back in August, I was laid off from my job. I just went back to working full time after being laid off back in 2017. So you get anxiety from being a professional, being on the grind. Everyone's acknowledging you for all of your accomplishments, but they don't see the after effects of what happened. So right after I got laid off back in August, I got in a car accident, totaled my car. It was like, what? I just got this new job back in March when COVID hits. Then I get in a car accident, totaled my car, thinking like, well, how am I about to get a new car? My mother actually was in a position to bless me with a vehicle.
Wow.
So my mother blessed me with a vehicle. She still had hers. In my mind, this car is still her car, even though she said it's mine. I'm paying the note. I'm paying for everything. And literally one day, I had finally asked my mom to watch my daughter so me and my husband could have a date night. We was moved, settling, finished getting done watching Judas and the Black Messiah. So I was already riled up, like just got done. I don't know if I want to be on Black Power. Do I love the police brutality? So I was in my zone, so I was still focused. I was driving. It's around 9:30, literally going through a green light, and a driver ended up turning left into my car. Boom. And I'm like starting to replay all of everything back in your head. Like, was I being a distracted driver? Did I look down at my phone? Did I do everything right? I already have this anxiety about being on the road. And here she is, 9:30, and the only thing I could think around, I had to go call my mom and my husband to tell them I was in another car accident. But the blessing of that Friday, even though that I thought that it was just a terrible, here go another thing on a Friday, was the blessing that it was her fault. Thank God nobody was hurt, but because it was her fault, it was covered. The car wasn't totaled, even though I thought the car was going to be totaled. So starting to really think around the blessings of, around that time, it was right when the winter, the snowstorm had hit, so I was hearing about people who was having like deadly car crashes based off of the black ice, and to sit and just be thinking around like, you still have your life, even though I know this still hurts. You don't know where it was coming from, but you still have your life to even say that was a terrible Friday, or the blessing of whether it's a good Friday or a bad Friday. It's all about your perception. So when I started thinking about Friday, I was like, I got a whole list of Fridays we can talk about, but let's start there with the most recent one.
Yes. So we're going to start there, but we're going to go deeper, y'all. So
Man.
all of this going on.
All of this.
So you were laid off in 2017.
Laid off in 2017.
Just gotten back to work in, was it March?
Went back to work full time, right? So I've been doing some dibble and dabbling in consultancy, but not full time because it's still the anxiety related to work, right? So I would rather have more autonomy, even though we're not in control of our life. We think we are, but trying to having the ability to have more autonomy over my life and then working for a system, right? So we become so dependent on our job. And for me, the 2017, the blessing again, so I thought I got laid off, right? and I had worked now with a coach. She always said, stop saying that, right? That's not your story. God was telling you that your story was, I closed that door so you can get accepted into your doctorate program. So I got laid off and then got accepted into my doctorate program, which I'm now 3 years later, official doctorate candidate in the midst of all of that, right? But in the seasons of, that was not on my agenda, Jesus. Like, I know that was yours, but I'm still stuck here because I was at my dream job. I was 25, making $50,000 in the city of Pittsburgh. I was Gucci for a minute. Like, we good, we could ride this wave. But he was like, I had more for you. And if I didn't take that away from you, you probably would stay there and got stagnant. So learning how to become dependent on me, knowing I'm your resource and the person who provides the sources for you and your family, and really having to go through all of that. So now here I am back in 2020/2021. You forget those Fridays in 2017, and then God was like, but I brought you through that before, and how quickly did you forget?
Wow.
So that's what I said, I've been through some stuff, so we can go deep. But learning to go through the seasons of healing and reflection and critical thought around what does this all mean. So that's why I said when we came in, we was listening to that Tide Tribute, it stuck in my spirit. But the live that you're going to live to see it, like when you get stuck in those moments, sometimes you get in that season of despair where you don't want to live, right? And are we able to be in the spaces to have those open conversations like, whoa, this is too much. It's always something else when you're stuck in those Friday seasons like, I don't want to keep going, or I don't want to keep going on this journey.
That's good. That's good. We're going to come back to that. 'Cause we need to come back to that.
All right, I wrote it down. I got my little notepad right beside me because I know this one get good.
Trying to keep notes on my phone, and I'm like, I'm not texting while they talking. I really am just like, Pastor Rue.
Yo.
You are a pastor.
Yes,
Woo.
Pastor.
Macedonia Church of Pittsburgh.
My God.
Beautiful wife.
Thank you.
Beautiful children.
Thank you.
People think you got it all together. People think it is always all Sundays, Pastor Rue.
Go on, paint the picture.
Did you have a Friday experience that came to mind when I first reached out to y'all and I said, this is what we talking about?
So I have quite a few. So I was trying to think about which one I wanted to go with. And I think you might have helped me solidify it just in this moment when you mentioned all of those things that God has blessed me with, my wife and my children, and just where I'm at in life and even in ministry. I wasn't always here. You know what I mean? And so to that point, I think what I'm going to go with is when I went through a divorce. How deep we going, right? Divorce is challenging. There's nothing easy about it. It's funny, after you go through it, it's like, man, now I understand why God hates divorce, right? Because there is an emotional, psychological turmoil that happens when there's that kind of break in the family, And so, this is definitely not a space where I'll go into details of what happened, right? But this is more so just like for me, generally, what I was going through. And so I remember just during that season, literally just spiraling out of control. Mentally, emotionally, and just being drained every single day. And while going to work and while, trying to take care of, my girls and just trying to just do the dad thing. But at the same time, wrestling with, am I good enough? Am I, will I ever, be married again, and still dealing with just some of the struggles that happens in those type of relationships, dealing with, that piece of it as well. And so it was difficult. It was really difficult. I want to say I was working full time. I wasn't here yet. I was probably here part-time on a part-time basis, working in the music ministry, but not necessarily on staff as a pastor yet. But yeah, that was a very difficult season of my life, and I don't wish that on anybody. You know what I mean? It's just not. There's nothing good about it. You know, and honestly, you know, for anyone who has gone through that or is, you know, going through that now or leaning towards that, I highly recommend get counseling now. You know what I mean? Because that was just another piece. I know for me as I wouldn't say as a man, but there's a sense of pride where it's kind of like, you know, I'm good. And then recognizing the ramifications of those decisions years later, like, man, I wish I would have talked to somebody, and even, you know, probably put those help my children in those circumstances as well, you know. And so it's tough. It's not for the faint of heart, you know. Yeah.
And I want to reiterate something that you said for those who are watching. He said, get counseling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Individual counseling and
Together,
couples
right.
counseling.
Yeah.
And your children
Yeah.
counseling.
Yes.
And those, because everybody goes through a grieving period.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a death.
Yeah.
And everybody experiences the death in a different way.
Absolutely.
Right?
If I can even jump on that, because that is exactly how it felt. Like, I remember going to a funeral, and it's like the feeling of sadness when someone loses, you know, when you lose a loved one, was literally kind of like the same heaviness that I felt, you know, going through that experience. And even to that point about counseling, when you don't deal with certain, you know, trauma that has happened in life, you will unfortunately make some people that you love deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And so
you definitely need to say that again.
it's,
That's a huge piece we don't talk about.
Yeah. And so you know, you talked about, I have a beautiful wife, I have kids, you know, and my wife would tell you the beginning stages of our relationship, you know, although it's like, you know, you have that dating phase where everything feels good. He's like, oh, you so cute, you so fine, and like, you know, you just enjoy each other's company, right? But right. Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're looking up and down like, oh, okay, I see you, right? Right. But once you kind of like get past like that phase, well, not get past it, but like you start growing into other phases where things get a little bit serious, you know, then the stuff that you should have dealt with starts creeping up. And so I would say even in the first year of our marriage, man, you know, there were things that I didn't deal with that started coming up and it started presenting some challenges in our relationship. And it was just like, man, you know, it's like, what is this? And that's why, you know, if you've ever gone through that situation and you're divorced, like I remember reading this website. This was like some years ago, man, where I was contemplating dating again, because I was like, all right, well, you know, you're out of one relationship. I'm gonna get back out there. You know what I mean? You ain't ready for that yet. You know what I'm saying? You think you are, but you're really not. And so there's this website I was reading. It was like a counseling website, and it legit was like, if you've been married for X amount of years, don't consider dating anyone for at least 2 years after you got out of the situation. And I remember reading that like, man, it must be crazy, man. 2 years? That sounds like a long time, you know what I mean? Like you know, I can't wait 2 years, you know what I'm saying? But what's funny is when I recognize the time frames after being married, and when I truly felt that release, right, was 2 years after being divorced. Wow. And so literally the first year I made my wife pay for things, right, that she didn't have to if I would have, you know, so it's real, man. I mean, it's, you know, and I know that I'm not the only one who has gone through that, you know what I'm saying? But I felt it was important for me to be honest and transparent about that, because it ain't always sunshine, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so we gotta deal with stuff. Yeah.
And something that you said in there, I don't want to say it was a trigger. It was a little bit of a trigger. Only because it intersects so much with my story. You talked about how when you read that article, it said, give yourself 2 years, wait 2 years. And I'm sure that it didn't just say wait 2 years, but like you do something with that,
Do the
that
work.
time that you're waiting.
Right.
Work.
But a lot of my story has been waiting for God to release me to do something, or waiting for God to send me, or waiting for God to say, okay, now it's time for this. And God showing me this and then saying, all right, now wait. And so when you said wait, I was like, you ain't waiting no more. No, but what I will say is that resonated with me, that waiting, because I feel like, and you guys, you can jump, in the comments and let us know what you think, but I feel like waiting is a trigger for a lot of us. I talked about this. I've waited on things that are far less worthy.
Come on, sis.
Longer than I've been willing to wait on God. I talked about the fact that, listen, I will wait on food. Look, if it takes 30 minutes, just make sure it's good and it's hot when it gets here. We will wait on food longer than we wait on God.
Yeah.
We'll wait on people longer than we'll wait on God.
Right.
We will wait on hell to freeze over longer than we'll wait on God. Like, we have waited for a lot of things in our lives that were less worthy. But when God says, hey, you just wait in this season. Like, arms go up in the air. I'm thinking about, I always think in terms of images, and I'm like the meme and the GIF queen, okay? But there is this one GIF of this little boy sitting at a table, and he's so frustrated, and he just goes, that's the whole GIF, is he's like, I know, little man, that's how I feel. Like, God says wait, and immediately we turn into a GIF. Like, I don't want to wait.
Right.
But what we miss is that when God says wait, it's never just like okay, sit here in this waiting room and I'll come back and get you when it's time. It's like, there are some things I need you to do while you're in the waiting room. Like, have you ever gone to like a hospital or the emergency room even? You know what I mean? You could go in there with your arm in your hand because it fell off. And you say, my arm fell off, I need some help. And they say, well, will you fill out this form over in that chair? And they will make you sit down and fill out a form with your arm in your other arm. You just holding your arm in your hand.
Right.
And you got to somehow, this is my non-dominant hand, so now I got to figure out how to fill out this form with my left hand because I'm right-handed and my right hand is sitting in,
Right.
And so we sit in a waiting room, but when we're in the waiting room, there are things that they need us to do so that we can get the proper care. They make sure that it's properly covered, because I want to make sure y'all build the insurance. Okay?
Right.
Don't bill me. Don't call me. Don't talk to me. After I leave here, I don't know you. And so we got to fill out the form. We got to tell them our name, our birth date, social security number sometimes. Then we got to tell them if we got allergies, right? Because if we don't tell them while we're waiting that we got allergies, we might get back there. Y'all, I'm allergic to penicillin. Anything in the psyllin family, I'm allergic to. So if I don't spend that time in the waiting room telling them the information they need to know, I'm like, Mug, I got a cough and I need y'all to help me out. But if I don't spend the time in the waiting room doing what's asked of me, I can't be seen. I can't be properly cared for.
Right.
I can't get what I actually need, because then if they say, oh, this is what's going on with you, we're going to give you this medicine, and then they give me a shot of penicillin, well, now I hopefully don't need a mortuary, because I didn't spend time in the waiting room telling you what you needed to know. I didn't spend time in the waiting room completing the prerequisite to get the actual care that I need. Because I can go in and they don't know that I have a history of, and I ain't speaking this on myself because it ain't the truth and I don't want it, but I might have a history of chronic bronchitis. And so I come in and all of my symptoms are presenting like a cold. But if I don't finish that prerequisite that tells them every time this year I get bronchitis, then they're going to say, oh, just go home and take some cough medicine. The cough will probably dissipate in about 3 to 5 days. If it doesn't, then you can come back and see us. When I really need an antibiotic.
Stay there, sis. So for me, COVID-19 flipped the idea of waiting upside down on its head, right? For me, it wasn't necessarily that I need to learn how to wait, but everybody in my surrounding was like, Charnay, you're too busy. Like, you're doing this, you doing that. You need to sit still. But I was like, but God told me to do this, and you may not understand it, but there's also the seasons of where God's telling me I need to be still. Yep. But COVID-19 was not, you don't need to be still, you need to be self-aware. So in your stillness, I need you to be in communication with me so I can tell you this is where that pain is, or this is why that's happening, right? So when you're in the waiting room, when the doctor is saying what's wrong, you can say my big toe turned blue when I had an itch on my my eye, right? Because oftentimes we miss things because I've got the anxiety, I'm sitting here, I'm waiting, I'm checking my clock. But no, like, how are you really feeling in this moment when you're in those seasons? And that's heavy because you got to deal with yourself. It ain't about nobody else. You drowning out the noise to self, right? And so I think for COVID-19, whether you're talking about your divorce or you're in relationships too, right? COVID-19, do I really love this mug? I'm in this house with him.
Yes, all the time.
All day long. Your kids, yourself, right? So learning how to be self-aware and knowing the things that you like and falling back in love with yourself. COVID-19 has been a blessing in restoring families to sit down and have game nights and have meals together. So I think oftentimes it's about our perceptions when we think God is telling us to do this, but actually he's trying to get our attention to say, no, I'm trying to help you get clearer understanding of what I actually want you to do. You're in the right vein, but until you know how to sit still and wait, and let me talk to you instead of you keep trying to self-diagnose yourself about what's really going on and what's really going wrong.
Self-diagnosed
All day long.
Like, nah, it's just fine as this. All of this. And mess around and you got an ear infection.
Right.
I think too, to that waiting piece, man, I think it has a lot to do with our level of trust. You know what I mean? Like do we trust God enough to say that he knows what he's doing and I don't know what I'm doing? You know what I mean? And I think that has that's the part that's hard for us, because it's like I want to jump in and I want to save the day. I want to jump in and I want to make the change. I know what the change is. I see where the mistake was. I'm gonna go back, let me erase it and fix it right in the right answer. And it's like, oh wait, you need to just sit down and just watch me work.
Watch me work.
You know what I mean? Because you'll come back in because you still have not gained the perspective I need you to have in order to really function well in this role. You know what I mean? And so I need you to sit back and watch me work, and so that I can get you right back on the page that you need to be on, so that we can execute this thing the right way. And I think a lot of times it just comes back down to that trust factor, man. I feel like I want to do it. I want to be able to fix it. And God is like, nah, you ain't. I need to fix you first. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's good. And if we're honest, we don't like to be told that he got to fix some stuff.
What to do it, how, like what?
I don't want you to tell me I'm broken. Tell me I'm pretty, God. Don't tell me I'm broken, though. You know what I'm saying? Tell me I'm smart. Tell me that, God. Don't tell me I'm broken, though. Don't tell me I'm in need of like I accepted you as my savior, but I don't want you to do the saving work. And so,
right.
And
That's real. Yeah.
I do want to come back to something that Charnay said. You mentioned this kind of God-guided self-awareness in the stillness, and you talked about how this awareness that allows you to see, my big toe turned blue every time my eye did this, and so seeing what's attached to what.
Everything's connected, right? But go ahead. What's your question, sis? Because I'm getting excited now.
No, seriously, I wanna deal in that, because sometimes I literally just maybe yesterday or the day before wrote a blog post on my blog. I'm working on consistency. And I wrote the post specifically about my grieving process, right? So at the beginning of December, my mother passed away. She graduated. That's how I like to say it.
That's beautiful.
Because that's the place that we all trying to graduate to. listen.
Right.
But what I'm finding is, as I'm walking through my grieving process, that God is giving me perspective. And so one of the things that I discussed in there was that sometimes we don't give ourselves space to grieve, right? Because that's a Friday experience and we don't want to live in it. I just want to think happy thoughts. And so we don't want to live there. And so we don't give ourselves the opportunity that we need to sit there for a while. Like, we don't have to live there, but like, we do need to sit there for a while. And so what happens when we do that is, right, it's not like it goes away, we just stuff it down. And eventually it's gonna come out. And so what I talk about is kind of the image that came to mind was, when it comes out, it normally comes out like a great white. Like, it's snapping on whoever is right there in front of me, like, you getting it. You ain't even the reason. You just asked me for a snack, boo, but you getting it today.
Right.
And
Yeah.
And so what I talk about is that we need to take time to, like, give ourselves the grace and the space to feel what we need to feel in those grieving moments. Because if not, right, those things happen and we snap out on people who had nothing to do with it. And what I talk about specifically is how it comes out in those moments as anger. And sometimes then we get labeled as the bitter person. Oh, you just bitter. Oh yeah, you know, just angry at the world. We've heard people say they're just mad at the world. And so then we get labeled that way. When all the while we aren't angry. We were never angry. We were hurt. But we didn't spend time sitting in it, at the root of it, which is the pain, the grief, the hurt. So then that hurt transformed and put on a mask of anger. Because that's something that I can express more easily than I'm hurting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can say to somebody, I'm mad, you made me mad, more easily than I can say to somebody, that really hurt me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a vulnerable thing to say.
Yeah.
Right.
That I'm hurting. It's a vulnerable thing to say that I am not impenetrable, that I'm not, everybody sees me as the strong one. So it's a vulnerable thing to let down your guard and say, I'm hurt. And so oftentimes it comes out as anger, but like you said, when we take time and God-guided just stillness, He can make us aware that, yeah, so what you're feeling is not anger. The root of that is this pain. So why don't we go to the root? And why don't we deal with that?
Right. And all of that is powerful, sis. And I think that's what I'm going to say it again, and cannot stress the power of counseling, right? Is a counselor's job and responsibility is to help you get to those roots. So when you begin to uncover those roots, like, oh, that was connected to this. Now I understand why I act, or why I try to avoid, or why my vice is this in relationship to that trigger, right? And oftentimes we talk about it, whether it's in the church, people may think that it's taboo. The Black community may think that it's taboo. There's a lot of community resources that are out right now that are pushing to change that narrative around what mental health looks like in the Black community. I can make sure that we connect the resources to the church if we are not already connected to, but there's a host of different initiatives that are going on right now in the city. But if you're not ready to get to that point, one of the places that I always like to do is sitting and journaling. Journaling, right? I may not vocalize it, but when you start writing, your thoughts just start, and you go back and read it and be like, I wrote what? Oh. And then you put a date at the top of that and say, this is what I felt like back in 2017, and this is where I'm at now. So you can praise for where you came from out of that Friday experience, but then still sitting and being like, whoa, look at how much. Am I still there? If I'm still there and there's some time have passed, then now can I sit down and have an honest conversation with myself of, do I want to stay here or not? And what am I going to do to change that? Or once again, going back and celebrating that you're no longer there and being able to recognize your growth.
Yeah. I think too, man, if you find a good counselor, man, like, Like, you know, sometimes they drop those little nuggets on you. You know what I mean? Like I'm a nugget. You drop me a good nugget on, I'm like, I can chew on that mug for about, you know, a couple weeks, a couple months. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I remember. So my wife and I are going through marriage counseling, couples counseling. You know, ain't nothing wrong. We good. You know, right? But we, you know, there's something we're doing to stay good, right?
That's good. That's nice.
But I remember the counselor was saying, you know, kind of to your point about, you know, the what's connected to what, right? And so sometimes there's pain, and we don't like feeling vulnerable. I hate feeling vulnerable. That's me. That's something that I struggle with. It's like hitting your funny bone. It feels weird. I don't like it. And I remember. You know, something came up in counseling. He was like, yeah, sometimes, you know, so you get defensive when, and I'm like, yep. And so he said, whenever you feel like you're getting defensive, ask yourself a question: what is it that I'm trying to defend? That's a nugget. You know what I mean?
Save somebody's marriage, save somebody's
And I was just like, that's interesting, because what was harmful to me or what felt bad to me comes out in anger or me being defensive. And so I'm trying to defend this feeling I don't like, because I don't want nobody to see it, right? Because I'm trying to be strong. I don't want to feel like, you know, can't help Ike. Ike don't need no help. You know what I mean? I'm good. You know what I mean? But Ike needed a lot of help. Amen. Praise the Lord. He needed some straight up counseling, right? But yeah, I mean, that's what it is, man. So asking yourself that question, what are you trying to defend, bro? And it's like, it becomes clear that I'm trying to defend these emotions that I don't want nobody to see, you know? And it's like, it's coming out in anger in different ways. You know what I mean? So I think that's important.
Thank you so much for joining us for another iteration of Cultivated Conversations. We don't take it for granted that you chose to spend this time with us to talk all about these uncomfortable spaces that we don't like to be in. We love you. We hope that you tune in for the next time. And God bless you guys. Good night.